everyone, this is Tamara, your courtroom companion. And for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who are part of our courtroom companion community already, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to share with you some things to think about and do in order to kind of train your teens and tweens about narcissistic abuse if you suspect that your co-parent or the other parent displays narcissistic behavior or narcissistic personality disorder. So that's what this video is going to be about. But before we jump into the content, I want to remind you to please hit that subscribe button and also the bell notification so you will be notified when I upload my videos. All right, let's jump right in. The first thing that I want to sort of mention is that what you do as a parent in modeling your own feelings is probably the most important thing that you can do. If you are in a relationship with anyone really, but especially your children, if you model what it's like to have feelings and to express those feelings, that's one of the greatest things that you can do for them. So let's say, for example, your child says that they will do something, they promise to do it and then they don't. Expressing your disappointment that they didn't keep their promise in a very healthy way is a good way for them to understand how to express their feelings. Or let's say that you've got some, your kids are acting out and they're calling you names, or they are abusing you in some other way, emotional abuse, or yelling at you or something like that. How you express what you're feeling in that moment can be very helpful for them to understand how they can do it with the other parent. If you sweep it under the rug and do nothing, that's what they're going to do with the other parent. They're going to think, oh, this is what's appropriate, so I'm just going to take it. That's what mom does. And they're not going to be conscious of those thoughts, but they're going to understand that how to interact in relationships from watching you. So, be very careful with how you're expressing your emotions and your feelings, and give them a voice in a very healthy way, and that can be very beneficial to them. If your children come to you and this is another way, if your children come to you after visiting the other parent and they express feelings about what it was like to be at the other parent's and say it's negative. Let's say, the other parent, does something weird or displays narcissistic, what you can see as narcissistic abuse towards them. They're not going to say dad was narcissistic or mom was narcissistic. They're just going to come back and express feelings, perhaps, about what happened. What I would do is not get in the mud puddle with them. And what I mean by that is not to say, oh yeah, your other parent's this or your other parent's that. Yeah, I don't know why you even want to go over there. Don't take that route. What you do is you validate for them what they're feeling. So if they express something to you, you can use words like, gosh, I can't imagine how that would feel. How do you feel? How did that make you feel? Right? Just really help them, encourage them to talk about their feelings and validate them when they bring up something. Don't shame them. Don't tell them to get over it. I'm sure none of us are doing that, but I'm just saying, I guess some parents do that. But just validate their feeling. That's another healthy way that you can help them. One other thing that you can say to them if they come home and express feelings is you could say, well, how would you have preferred that situation occur? Or what would you have preferred that dad say or mom say instead of what they did say? That way they can think about an alternative healthy reaction that they would have preferred. That would be another good way to handle that situation. Another way that you can help them is to help them understand the differences between fact and fiction. I did this often. I would say things like, well, what facts do you have about the situation? Not feelings, not fiction. What do you know about this situation? And I would let the kids just talk about what they know for absolutely sure. Now, what you're trying to get them to understand is that with narcissistic abuse, and what comes with that is emotional abuse, and part of that is lying. They try to rewrite history. They try to, make someone believe something that's not true. There's a lot of gaslighting, and they do this with kids as well. The other parent could do this with their children as well. So it's not just one partner to another. This narcissistic behavior, it's no respecter of persons. It's, they try it with everyone. And so one of the ways that you can help your kids, your teenagers and your tweens, is to help them understand the facts, have them tell you the facts, encourage them to to see where the holes are. You're not outright saying, oh, mom or dad is lying. You're just helping them in their own mind remember how the story went. That's another thing, a very helpful thing that you can do with your children. Another way that I have found that has been helpful in my own situation is to continuously talk about compromise. And I know this might seem a little weird in the context of this video, but I think it's been very helpful. If my kids and I are like trying to, talk about, what we're going to do, or, ways to do things, or ways to handle rules around the house, there's sometimes I allow negotiation because I think it's helpful. Like if I say, I want bedtime, and this happened recently, I want bedtime to be 10 o'clock. And he came back and said, well, I'm getting older. I really want to go to bed at 10:30. And I said, okay, but and part of that, I want you to start setting your own alarm to get up. And if you miss the alarm, it means you probably needed more sleep. So let's try this out. And I think it's helpful because they get a voice in certain things. Some things, maybe they can't some things you can't negotiate. Like if they say they don't want to do their homework, you can't negotiate that. But there are some things, if you can find ways to allow compromise, it teaches them another healthy aspect of relationships, which is compromise. And sometimes he will even use the verbiage, how about a compromise? How about if we do X instead of Y? And I like that because he's learning how to negotiate and be in relationships where it's not all about him or all about me or all about someone else. It's allowing both people to be present in the conversation and both feelings are included. It's another way to really talk about narcissistic abuse without saying narcissistic abuse. Another way that you can help your teens and tweens is to encourage them to ask for what they need. And I've seen this recently in my own situation. My teen said he didn't want me to call him any more pet names. I used to have all kinds of pet names for him. And he said, Mom, I really don't like that anymore. I'm getting older. Can you just call me by my name or call me son or, something like that? And so I respected that. I encourage him to ask for what he needs all the time. And I like to see that he's learning to do that. This way, he can learn to do this in all relationships, but specifically with a narcissist or someone that's displaying those kinds of behaviors, he's learning in my home how to speak up for what he needs, and that can be transferred to other relationships. And so that's something very helpful to your teen and tween. Another way that you can help your teen or tween is to encourage your own boundaries, to state your own boundaries. My teen used to come in my room a lot late at night while I was already sleeping and tap me on my shoulder and ask me questions that could have waited until the next day. So, one day I decided, what? I don't want to be woken up like that anymore. And so I said, I really want you to respect my sleep time. I respect your sleep time, and I'd like you to respect mine. And if it's an emergency, obviously come and get me. But if it's not an emergency, I want you to wait. I want you to wait until the morning. So he does that now. Another thing that I have found helpful is to periodically ask your teen or tween, how's it going? What's going well in the home here? What would you like to see change? And having those frequent conversations allows them another place to practice speaking up for what they need. It helps them to evaluate, how's it feeling being a part of this household? What would they like to see different? And so it's another way to practice healthy relationships so that can be transferred to the relationship with the narcissist in their life. Another way that I have found things to be helpful in terms of talking to the teens and tweens about narcissistic abuse is to encourage them to think critically. And right now, one great example of thinking critically is to look at our world of politics right now. There's a lot going on right now. It's January of 2021, and there's a lot going on politically. And I am frequently asking my teen how he feels about the news. What does he feel? What does he think is going well? And it's a way for them to talk out what they're actually thinking so they can think critically about key issues in our society. And that, I think, transfers into the relationship that they have with a possible narcissistic parent. They can think critically about the things that are happening so that they can learn how to navigate through them. So that's another great way to talk to them. If your teen is older, say 16, 17, and 18, I think it's appropriate to start weaving in the vocabulary around narcissistic abuse and narcissistic behaviors. You can talk about emotional abuse, you can talk about gaslighting, you can talk about pathological lying, but not necessarily about the other parent. I wouldn't encourage you to do that. I would just find creative ways to weave in those terms so that they can learn to have vocabulary about what could be happening for them with the other parent. I found vocabulary to be one of the things that really propelled me into my own healing around narcissistic abuse. If I could put vocabulary to what was happening and name it, it was so beneficial and so helpful. So I think with your older teens, if they're mature, you can start using vocabulary to describe what might be happening for them, but do it in a very creative way. Last but not least, one of the things that you can do is to get a therapist for your teen or tween where they have a confidential place to talk about what's happening for them. I think that's really, really important that they have that safe space where they don't have to worry about being on mom's side, being on dad's side. They have this one place that therapist is only in it for what's best for that particular child. So definitely encourage your kids and take your kids to therapy if you have insurance and can afford it. Well, that's all for today. I hope you found these tips and strategies helpful. And if you found other things that work for talking to your teens and tweens about narcissistic abuse and emotional abuse, we'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Our community is always looking for ideas on ways to handle their situation. So definitely comment below. And I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.